Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Everybody's still asleep, which is the best part about angels. They make the best hostage rescue teams ever. So yeah, after this bit in Caesarea, then it cuts to a reporting period, which is good. You go on a mission trip, you should report what happened.
Yeah.
And that's just the importance of testimonies. It keeps people going, keeps people energized, lets people know what's going on. That's something that we will hopefully do here with our friends that go on trips, or if you and I ever go on trips, it'll be fun to bring back stories. And then James dies.
Is this the same James that wrote James, or was referenced to James? This is different James.
This is different. This is Apostle James.
Apostle James?
Yes, Apostle James.
Oh shoot,
he dies.
That sucks.
And then we'll get the reference. But yeah, James dies, and Peter has this prison break. This is chapter 12. This is another one of my favorite scenes where James gets killed. Peter goes to prison, but Peter has this encounter with an angel. So the way the text goes, it says he's laying there between two dudes. I don't think the guards are in the cell with him laying down next to him in the cell. That's kind of silly. I think they're just right outside and they're asleep. Mm-hmm. So you got the two guards, the gate, and then Peter is laying down, or maybe it's one of those, you've seen like medieval scenes.
Isn't it like the chains are up here?
Like
they're there.
But he's up straight, but and his head's kind of over, sleeping. Maybe that could be it. The angel said there's a bright light and struck him in his side. And it's like, Peter, get up. It's one of these like, hey, we gotta go. Get your clothes. and then he leads him out of the prison.
Yeah.
And which that would have, I don't know if Peter was like having a dream. You know,
I think. Do you think he thought he was having a dream?
He's probably dreaming about bacon. He was probably still contemplating this idea of eating pigs. Yeah. And then this angel like smacks him and says, "Get up." And then they get out of the prison. Nobody knows what's going on. Yeah. Everybody's still asleep, which is the best part about angels. They make the best hostage rescue teams ever. They lead Peter to this one group of folks. Peter goes up to the gate, and these people know him. I forget exactly where it is, but Peter's led up to the gate, and Peter went to the house of Mary. This is a different Mary, I think. I don't think this is the Mary. Yeah. You know, I think at this point John and Mary have already bailed.
It says Mary, the mother of John, also called.
Yeah. Back. So this is okay. Yeah. So not
Mary,
not the Mary,
not married like. Oh,
Mother
Mary,
of Jesus,
Mother of Jesus, or
not her. She and John are hiding.
Yeah.
Peter comes up to the gate, and he's like getting their attention. And girl comes over, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Peter!" She doesn't open the gate. She instead goes back inside to tell, real excited to tell everybody that Peter's here. Mm-hmm. And Peter just got broken out of prison.
Yeah.
She's kind of like, guys. Come on,
we're going inside right now.
I need in. So that's just funny to me.
Yeah.
About how like Peter's he gets broken out of prison that way, then he goes up to this gate looking for help, and he helps right there, staring him in the face, and walks back inside. And then they get him, and then Herod dies. But
death. That's something. The one little note I had is just like I have like little notes about this.
Just
like
the worms.
That's just like gross. Well, I just read the wording. I don't know if this is in your version, but it literally says he was eaten by worms and died.
Yeah,
like if that's sequential order, that sucks.
That's like
he was eaten by worms and then died.
That's like that lady who got turned into salt, just straight salt. It's like, I think that was
that wasn't like Genesis. That was Sodom.
What is it? Was that Sodom?
Yeah, I think that was Sodom and Gomorrah.
Go look that up.
Yeah,
I thought that also could have been the Ananias and Sapphira or whatever her name was at the beginning of Acts. I thought one of them got turned into a pillar of salt.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember if it was a pillar of salt or what.
Woof.
No. I think they were just struck. I think they just died.
Oh, they just dropped dead.
I think they just dropped dead.
Okay.
He like straight up is struck by a bolt of lightning and then is eaten It seemed
Right.
like, yeah. To me, I read this. I'm like, is he being eaten alive and then dies, or what? But either way, I'm like, that just is messed up. Is this the same Herod that like had to deal with Jesus, or is it like Herod's a title position? It's like a different Herod.
There were lots of Herods.
Okay,
that's a good question.
Because at this point, that Herod's pretty freaking old. Because he had to be old already, then live through all of Jesus. I think that Herod died, if I'm not correct, if I remember correctly. But the only Herod
I think it's a different Herod. Could be wrong.
Yeah,
we'll look it up.
Yeah,
we'll look it up.
That was just like one thing. It's like the only Herod I know that's important is the one that had tried to kill Jesus.
Let us know if you know.
Yep.
Now we're on the first. Then we get to the first missionary journey, and there are 3 of them. We're not going to hit all the points in these journeys. We're just going to cover some highlight things that we thought were cool, or things that just stuck out to us, and then we'll get into we'll do the same thing with Paul and all the politics that happen as he appeals to Caesar, and then that shipwreck,
and the shipwreck,
and then Acts is over,
and Acts is done.
Well, the book of Acts is over. There's lots of stuff that happens there.
The church still goes on.
Anyway, first missionary journey. Just some of the things that I wrote down. They brought Mark. So this is John Mark, like Apostle Mark, and this guy bails. So it's Barnabas and Paul. They head out to go plant churches. Yeah. And at some point, Mark was like, I want to go home. And he goes home. And so that's an example. If you've ever been on a mission trip and you had someone who's really not having it, like they're just, I'm done. I got to go home. I don't know what the attitude was, or if it was like if there was an emergency, or if there was just Mark had an issue. I don't know. Yeah. But he left. And you see the effects of that in the second one. So, but Mark went with them. Yeah. So that's kind of fun. Zeus's temple was mentioned.
That was cool.
I like how that was in there.
That's cool. It just makes the whole book more real. It's like, oh yeah, they're not disacknowledging the fact that at the time these were gods that actually worshipped, and that building that still exists today. Yeah, was like a thing there.
It just brings perspective, like the idols and the false gods that are mentioned, even though it vaguely says false gods. Like that's who it was.
It's the Roman gods.
Greek and Roman gods that were established over the last bit of the Old Testament and New Testament.
Yeah, it's so weird to think that like those like thing. I'm a person who grew up on the Percy Jackson series. It's like hard to remember. It's hard to remember that those gods were like actually people.
All that mythology that you read about,
that's like what people believed was true. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's what's going on here, and it's kind of interesting. Then you have Peter. Oh, this is fun. Peter calls out some of the Jews. And I put in quotes some of the words he says, the yoke that none of our fathers could bear. Like he was debating with some of the Jews. So Peter mentions this to some of the Jews in Jerusalem, and he basically calls them out on all the Old Testament stuff or all the following the law stuff like they were doing. He's like, guys, we can't. None of us, not even our dads, granddads. Nobody can uphold this stuff, and I think that was a period where he was trying to make this idea of we're all kind of in the same boat, Gentiles and Jews. We're all screw ups. Jesus is the way out, or the solution, or however you want to phrase that. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of fun. It cuts over to Peter. It's not just Paul and Barnabas. It cuts over to Peter. Yeah, a little bit. Peter's little moment. But do you have anything?
I saw 2 things, or I think it was 3 things I thought were pretty cool that are, I believe, in the first missionary journey. One part I thought was cool was I think it's actually referencing something that Luke had already written back in his gospel.
Really?
Which was Acts. The specific verse, I was like, oh, this reminds me of something that Jesus had said in, I think, Luke, or at least in multiple gospels. But I thought I remember like being preached out at church one day from Luke. The verse in Acts is Acts 13, verse 51. So they shook the dust off their feet as a warning to them and went to Iconium. That reminded me of like when Jesus is telling people, like the disciples sending them out and saying, hey, seek for people of peace, but if they're not people of peace, literally dust off your feet and move because it's not worth it. Yeah. Like literally, I like it also says here, it's like they dusted off their feet as a warning of like, oh my gosh, you just missed out on a huge opportunity to like have eternal salvation. Like that was huge. I also just like the callback to something he had written before, and that's such a big deal too.
There's probably a cultural message that's being sent out.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know what the culture was like back then, but there's probably something to that. If someone on the outside of the city like saw that, that could have rocked some people's worlds. I don't know.
I mean, there's stuff like that now. It's like
if somebody did that to me, I'd be like, okay, I don't know what that meant.
Yeah.
But bye.
And then there's like other little things. In chapter 14, Paul and Barnabas are talking still, and they were saying, it's verse 15, "Friends, why are you doing this? We are only human too, like you. We bring good news, telling you to turn from the worthless things of the living God who made the heavens and the earth. In the past, we let all nations go their own way, yet he has not left himself without testimony. He has shown kindness by giving you rain from heaven and crops of the season. He provides you with plenty of food and fills your hearts with joy." I thought this was a cool way of them calling out God's like love and care for the Gentiles before he like brought them into like the kingdom. Like he didn't forget about the Gentiles. He never forgot about Gentiles. He still like loved and cared for them and provided for them and literally allowed them to live. He just like feels like now is the best time to bring them in on the entire plan. I thought that was just so important.
Fill them in. Yeah.
I just think that's so important to like recognize that God's love literally is for everybody and has always been for everybody. It just manifested itself in different ways. And I feel very blessed to be part of the Gentile group that gets the whole package.
Yeah. I'm sure all of us at some point if you go back far enough, have a little bit of Jew in us, but I'm pretty white.
I don't even know, dude.
I'm pretty Gentile, dude.
I think I'm pretty Gentile. Eastern Europe, most of Europe, very European. And then the last thing I have is Paul just randomly getting stoned, and he just gets up. I mean, he just keeps going.
Yeah.
God, jeez. He's like,
shake it off.
It's like, oh yeah, they stoned Paul, dragged him outside of the city, thinking he was dead. And then he got up and went with Barnabas to Jerusalem. Like, what?
Yeah.
Just the amount of times Paul gets stoned or just gets up, I just like go, how?
Gets imprisoned, death threats, has to run away, flee the country, flee the city, whatever. Yeah.
He's invincible.
Yeah. For a while. And then they cut his head off. But you're invincible as long as God,
wants you to be invincible.
Yeah.